Hey everyone, welcome to the Worship Artistry podcast. My name is Jason Houtsma, and with me is
Kristina and Jason.
Hello, Kristina.
Hello.
Welcome to fall.
Oh, it's fall time. It doesn't feel like fall.
Well, it's still, we're shooting this in August.
That's true.
Technically, still.
That's true.
But by the time it comes out, right? I think so. I don't know. I didn't check the calendar. I have no idea what's happening.
What year is it?
The last few years have felt like very confusing. So,
Yes.
But yeah, so let me ask you, is fall different for you as a worship leader,
Well, let me tell you, Jason, I'm very much looking forward to having a team again.
Oh my gosh. You're saying that your team travels a lot? People travel in your
Yes.
world?
Well, they love to go camping, love to spend time with family, which is all amazing. We all love that. But I do miss having them around.
I know. It's funny. I've been talking about how much I've been changing my team and how growing the team. This has been amazing this year because I've been able to actually get outside of, I've been able to leave and have worship handled, which has been incredible.
Instead of having before, I remember you'd have to record worship ahead of time in order for the church to have something to play.
Welcome to church. Welcome to small church land. And so, but it was a challenge getting started right away because I knew that everybody was going to be traveling, and so I put out a schedule, and then about half of everybody would cancel every time. Even so, it's still way better than it was. And so I'm very excited to kind of actually get some consistency and be able to have the same team. Do you on your teams, do you do the same people always play together, or do you switch it up all the time?
I switch it up.
Why?
So I love to, initially we had separate teams, completely different teams, that would be dedicated to a specific Sunday, which worked for a while.
Did they have band names?
Just based on the worship leader, because it'd be a worship leader associated with a team, know?
So it wasn't the Destroyers.
No, there would not be a worship team called the Destroyers. So we did have that, and it was great for a while. And then when I took over kind of the team in general, I wanted everyone to come together because we had very different sounds all across the board, very different song styles, very different playing. And it felt like every Sunday you'd come and it'd be just completely different. And you felt like that was a negative thing? I did.
Why?
I wanted consistency because you never knew what you would get when you'd show up, and I wanted consistency.
Were you talking about you never knew what you'd get stylistically or quality-wise?
Everything.
What are we talking
all
about?
of the above.
Okay.
All of the above. Sometimes it would be the quality. Oftentimes it would be stylistically. So it would just be kind of across the board. And so in order to just reel it in, to bring it back so people can actually come and expect a solid set every time that they're at church, I decided to just treat everyone as one big happy family. And so then I just schedule people as they're available. I think about intentionally pairing different bass players with drummers and different I think I have at least 2 for every instrument. So I'm able to do some combinations. Now, of course, everyone has played with everyone. So it's pretty, I guess it's not different every single time.
Do you see certain people kind of gelling together differently than other ones? It's when this bass player and drummer are together, that's where it feels like it should be.
Yes, we definitely have stronger musicians and not so strong. So I love to pair the ones that a very strong bass player with a not so strong drummer, because then they do kind of, I wouldn't say they gel yet, but it challenges both of them in terms of their playing. Same with who I put on keys. Sometimes if I am putting someone new on keys, one of my teenagers, then I will make sure that whoever's on guitar on acoustic is solid, because I can't have 2 kind of lead instruments be kind of wonky.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's been the same way with me. It's interesting too because people have stepped into roles really naturally. There's been scenarios where, I had one guy, I don't know if I talked about it on the podcast at all, but he was I don't want to lead. I don't want to sing. He's got his voice is 1,000,000 times better than mine. He should just have my job.
Yeah.
But
he can take it.
Yeah. He can have it. No, just kidding. But he was just no, I just want to play.
Yeah.
But then you get in practice and he's kind of oh, actually he kind of recognizes, oh, actually,
That's
I can
so
probably
cool.
bring something to this,
Yeah.
right? And so you do see people starting to step up and finding those strengths. And but yeah, it is super important. I learned right off the bat that it's like you got to have the strong person with the weaker person, because if you and I don't mean weaker person, but the weaker player, right?
Yeah.
You know, just the less
the
confident
newer
player,
musician,
the less confident one,
yeah.
the one who hasn't spent a lot of time on worship artistry, but instead is just been
Good
working
one.
from YouTube
Good
or whatever. Shameless plug. But it's actually interesting because our guest today has actually spent a lot of time on worship artistry.
Yes.
He's
kind of a legend.
I know, this is
over
a
here
worship
at
artistry first that we've ever had. Like, I think it's the first time we've ever had a member
Yes.
on the podcast as the guest. And the reason why we brought in Stephen Hill. And we got to know Stephen through our Facebook group. We have a members only Facebook group. And you know, as a teacher, as somebody who's directing a team, you know, you're not supposed to have favorites, but like you definitely have these, like, you get it. Like, you are going to do well because you're putting in the time, you're doing the things, and it's like you're clearly passionate about it, and that's really nice to have, right? And right off the bat, Stephen was he was starting from scratch. And the guy's got more guitars than I do at this point, yeah. But he just started from scratch, and it started with like, hey, I'm learning to do this, and he would like post a video, and everybody would encourage him, and he just grew by leaps and bounds.
Incredible.
And I found him such an encouragement, and I think the whole group found him an encouragement, and I think he felt encouraged by the group as well. And you know, I was like, our whole thing is that we teach people, and we're teaching people in all different levels. They're all starting in different spots. Some people are starting right from scratch. Others are more like intermediate players, have been playing a long time, but a lot of times those people maybe they don't haven't really like focused that hard, right? So they get the ones that are like, oh, I've been playing for 10 years. Yeah, how do we make a G chord again? You know, like that sort of a
That's
thing.
me. That's me
Right.
on guitar.
Yeah, I don't know if you could say you've been playing. Anyway. But anyway, so you kind of get people in all different spaces, and focusing on those fundamentals, there's certain things that help you improve at whatever you're working on. And whether you're trying to lead worship or whether you're just trying to play an instrument or anything, there are certain principles and things. So I wanted to bring Stephen in and just pick his brain a little bit about like what kind of drove you, like what did you find helpful, where did you get stuck, because I think it could really be encouraging for a lot of people.
Amazing.
So super happy to have him on. It was great to actually talk to him, like not via typing. You know, that was cool. Yeah, so without further ado, Stephen Hill.
Well, I am honored. I am excited. I told him I felt like I was meeting a celebrity. I'm here with Stephen Hill. Stephen Hill is the inspiration for like the entire worship artistry guitarist group. He started guitar not that long ago, kind of early in the pandemic, and we've just kind of all gotten to watch his journey, and it's like we're all his fans. And so I was like, man, let's get him on here and say hello. So Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, man. Excited to be here.
Oh well, let's go back. All right, so
Yes.
you've been playing guitar now for how long?
2 years, roughly 2 years.
Yeah. And so how did that journey start? Because you're like, tell people how old you are if you're comfortable with that.
Yes,
and,
I am.
You're not like 12 starting
No.
guitar.
Right. I wish. I'm 33.
Yeah.
Just turned 33. And man, guitar for me was kind of a weird thing. So I have a friend at work who plays guitar, a great guitar player. And one day at work, he was watching YouTube videos on guitar stuff and watching worship tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, that's awesome. And then I kind of went home, and that was it. I just thought it was like a really cool thing. And then I kind of sat on it for a couple of days, and I found myself watching worship tutorials and stuff like that on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided to go get a guitar. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Well, and you dove in on electric guitar, right? That was kind of like you just kicked off right there.
Yes, yeah, I went straight to electric, yeah. I don't know if it's the effects, the tone, the pedals. Like, I'm a technical person, and so all those things just kind of meant a lot to me starting off, and I just went straight for it.
Well, and honestly, I always tell students, like at my guitar students for years, just start on electric. Acoustic guitar, you can transfer over really easily,
Right.
because it's like now your fingers are strong enough and you go and you do the things. But like if you're going to get started, the electric guitar is the way to go. And you don't have to get all the sweet gear that you have to make it work, but it doesn't hurt. It
doesn't hurt. Yes, it does not hurt at all. Yes.
So tell us. So what was right in the beginning? What were some of the things that kind of hooked you? Were there things that kind of were like, oh yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm talking like very basic things. Like, are you like, oh yeah, I started strumming and like found out that was easier than I thought it would be, or did you find things that maybe were harder than you thought they would be? Like, what was your? Yeah. Tell me about that initial you're at home, you're learning from home. So
I'm learning from home and I'm learning chords, and the first thing that got me was the difference in the way an E minor made me feel versus a G major, and just knowing that those two things. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I knew nothing about theory, but I was like, this chord sounds different than this chord, and it makes me feel different.
Yeah.
And then I just dug in from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. And a lot of people don't really actually think through that thing, right? You're right. Like, we all feel it, but it's like to be able to identify that, I think, is really, really amazing. And I love that you picked like the relative minor and the major. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, yeah, so you start going, you're learning online, you're liking the way it's feeling. What were some of the things did you ever hit roadblocks? Was there anything that you were like, oh man, I don't know what to do here. I'm getting kind of bogged down.
Yeah, I think just playing to a metronome has been one of them, speed in general. But I think my first roadblock was introducing the F major bar chord. My buddy showed it to me and I just thought, this is it. Like, that's it. I'm done with this guitar thing. I can't do it, right? Just because I just couldn't make it work for some reason.
Yeah.
And so that was my first one. And then I was working on, I can't think of the song, but I was working on a song, and it was just faster than what I was ready for at the time. And I'm hard on myself sometimes. And so I just thought, okay, well, between that and between being a little bit slower, I was like, man, this is tough. But those are the first two big roadblocks for me.
Yeah, nobody likes those bar chords in the beginning. Oh my gosh, I remember I learned mine. I learned the song "Yellow Ledbetter" by Pearl Jam. Yes. And my teacher like showed me how to do it, and I was like, "Are you joking? Like, how is this even?" And there was hammer-ons and pull-offs and everything. Yes. And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? Like, this is impossible." He's like, "You can do it." And my dad was late to pick me up. I was like 15 at the time, and my dad was late to pick me up. So I was just sitting there on these church stairs where my teacher taught, just like forcing my hand into position, And I remember by the time my dad showed up, it was like, I'm starting to get sound, but like that consistency of like pushing through. So how did you end up, like, how did you get through it? Can you play bar chords now?
I can, and I don't want to be like totally cheesy, but it was practicing it every single day.
Yeah.
Right? Like just practicing it every day. It was, making like a C major bar chord, rest 2, 3, 4, going to like an F major bar chord, rest 2, 3, 4, back to, just going back and forth between the two. And it was doing that every single day. And it was not only just, of course, from C to F, but like just like different shapes, like D to B minor, just practicing those and just repetition.
So is this something in your life that is this kind of naturally how you approach most things? Or was there because if you ask me, how do you learn this thing? It's like, that's how you do it. So, right. So is this something that you kind of applied to your whole life? Like, how did you, like, what gave you kind of the grit and everything to kind of get through that?
Oh man, I'm a go big or go home kind of guy, to a fault sometimes, to be honest with you. Right. But whenever I picked up a guitar, it was just like everything else that I've ever done. It was something that I wanted to be really good at. I wanted to do it for the glory of God, and I wanted to be really good at it. Those are the two things that I really pushed for myself. And that's what I do for everything else. I'm a full-time production director and audio engineer. And so just some of those things that I do at work and with my music and things like that is just transferred to guitar. Just go big or go home and do your best every single day. That was it.
Well, it worked, man. It worked. Yeah. Like I said, we've all been kind of following you because you've been like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And you like put it out there, and we're all just like, hey, how long you been playing for? Okay, all right, all right. Awesome. There's probably guys that have been playing. Like I always get the guys, that are like, oh, I've been playing for 10 years. Yeah, I still don't quite have my G to C transition yet, but I'm getting there, And like you really kind of like took off with it, and it was super fun to watch. How was it? How was it learning for you in terms of in terms of learning within community? Like I said, you were doing this like during the pandemic,
right?
And so you've been on worship artistry for a long time. You're learning songs, you're learning parts, you're being creative, you're going beyond as well, like all those pieces. I always feel like it's way more fun to learn things with other people.
Correct.
You were very engaged right away in the worship artistry, like guitarist group, and just kind of like commenting and posting videos and doing all those things. How was that helpful to you to have to do it with people in that environment? And how do you think that would compared to, being in person with people?
So in life in general, like I'm a community driven person. The hardest part about the pandemic was like, who am I going to hug? Right. Like it was like those kind of things that really got to me. And I just knew that if I'm going to be at home for the next however long, I'm going to need something to do. I'm going to need some kind of interaction. And the group was really helpful for that, because here I am with this new instrument and with other people that in my mind are much better than I am. And it's just information that I can share about me and they can give to me. It's just this big circle of communication. That's what I really wanted to do. It was difficult learning during a pandemic because part of music is with other people. Right. And I think I've gotten better as a musician as I jam with people and things like that. But at the same time, I wouldn't have chosen a better time to learn the guitar, because I had so much time at home. I'm working from home at that point in time and stuff like that. And then I have friends from the community group from the Facebook group that I talk to regularly, right?
That's awesome.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it was just really helpful. And then it was just really helpful doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to jump into something that you had written me at one point, because you were like, you've actually helped us. You said, I'm more than just a guitar player. Like, you've actually helped me to become a musician.
Yes.
Tell me, what is the differentiation for you in that? Like, what is the difference between playing guitar and being a musician?
I think prior to learning and getting where that was, I think I wanted to overplay all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a musician focuses on when to play. It's the communication aspect of playing, where it's call and response. I think that's something big for a musician. And when I just think as a guitar player, like I just think, I got to hammer on, pull off, I got to play these 16 notes, I got to do whatever I can to fill up the space. And I just learned as a musician, you don't have to do that. And then just a lot of technique things that when I watch your videos for the tutorials, I'm watching for the part, but I'm watching like what your hands are doing, right? Like not just the part, but just how you're doing it, right? And I think those parts are huge. But I think as a musician, I think I just really want to be able to express like an emotion, number one, whenever I'm playing, and I want to feel like a communication, like a conversation, and then just want it to be technically accurate as well.
Well, and that goes so far beyond, just knowing the notes, right? Like, it is that difference. It's going like, oh, this is how I actually interact. I remember you posted at one point, you were like, oh, I'm going to be playing. Like, I think you were auditioning, or you were going to be playing with somebody else for the first time. And you're like, I'm nervous. Like, what do I do? And everyone was like, first of all, don't be nervous, man. It's going to be a great time. We're all having fun. That's like, that's honestly one of my favorite things about the worship artistry community, is that, I've been in a lot of different environments as a musician, and there's a lot of times there's a whole lot of, like chest pounding and like, well, let me tell you what I'm doing so that I can impress you. And like, and always kind of gauging, like, are you better than me? Or are you worse than me? And how do I position myself to be better than you? And, in a lot of different ways, that turns into tearing people down, or it's just kind of like boasting about what you do. And I've always been like, I just don't feel like that's the way musicianship should be. It should be like, we're all on everybody's team. And in the worship artistry community, it has reflected that in a lot of ways. I've had some interesting conversations in that group. It's been awesome.
Yes.
And at the same time, anyway, all that to say is, how was it then going into playing with another person for the first time, after sitting there on the computer and being like, all right, I've got it. What surprised you about it, and what maybe what was something that surprised you about it?
I think number one, I overhyped it by 100%, right? Like, I just way overhyped it. I was so nervous going into my first time playing with somebody else. I mean, like, trying to get the first note out, and then I just had to settle myself. So number one, I overhyped it, right? And then number two, I just learned that, like, other musicians, like, they just want somebody to talk music with and to jam with and to pour into. The guys that I'm playing with and stuff like that, like they have poured into me so much just from the fact that, I mean, just because they love me, number one, and everybody, we just want to see each other succeed, right?
Right.
And so what I've learned is don't overhype it, and just show up and do your best, man. I mean, that's it. Just show up and do your best. Don't overhype it. Show up and do your best, and it works out. I mean, it's the jamming with people is when you want to miss the notes. It's not when you're on stage.
Right.
Like that's when you want to figure it out, right? Because you'll have somebody that can kind of coach and guide you and stuff like that. It's not when you're on stage, but it's in that moment. Yeah.
Well, I love that. And the idea of experimentation, you know, like it's funny. I remember talking with a friend of mine who's actually going to be on the podcast this season as well. And he uses worship artistry, and he uses it, you know, at his church and everything. And, you know, initially I remember telling him about what we were doing. This is like years ago. And we were just talking. I was like, oh yeah, we're working on this. And he's like, oh, so this is the reason why all worship teams sound the same. And I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. It's about getting that baseline of knowledge and information so that you can take it, be confident in it, and have like a baseline to work with, and then be able to go forward and go like, okay, well now I want to add this, and now I want to do this, and now I want to, you know, bring in all those things. Now I've noticed, just based on your Facebook interactions, that you are quite the gear guy. I swear you have owned more. Like, honestly, at this point, my wife, every time I want to like get something new, I'm like, but look what Steven has. He's only been playing for like 2 years. So you're a gear guy. You've kind of cycled through a few different guitars, and I see you got a bass back there. You've got an acoustic guitar. You've got like, it's not a Jaguar. That thing is sick.
Yes.
So for somebody who is starting, I think a lot of people sometimes get in that zone where they either are trying to buy the cheapest thing possible, you know, or they're like they don't really know what's the best thing for them. Like, as you've clearly had a lot of trial and error, gone through a lot of different things, tried a lot of stuff.
Right.
Like, what would you say? What would you say to someone who's starting out and like needs to get a guitar or wants to buy their first pedal or whatever?
Yeah, man. What would I say? I would say do some research. Don't buy anything too blind. Do some research on it. Ask questions. Get your hands on it if you can. One of the difficult things whenever I was buying guitars was we're in a pandemic and the local guitar shops were closed.
Right.
And so it's just researching and buying it online and seeing if I liked it. Right. Just find something you like and see what like your favorite players are playing and stuff like that. Right. And just go for the sound or figure out the sound that you want. I've had a lot of guitars in 2 years. I've landed on my Jazzmaster here, then I've got an Epiphone that I've really modded out and stuff like that. That's what I've landed on. And just do some research and be ready to dig in. But don't get into it too much. I work in AVIT, and so I'm a technical minded person in general. And so those things just mean a lot to me because it just grooves my personality a little bit, right? And I get to kind of do what I do for a living with my guitar playing. And so, but I wouldn't get into it too much.
So what do you like about the stuff that you settled on? Tell me about what you've got there.
Oh man, so I've got this Jazzmaster here. It's a Warmouth build. A buddy of mine put it together and then gave it to me, number one. And man, I love it. It's my favorite guitar that I've had. And then I've gone through a lot of guitars, but right now I've got that one. Then I've got this Epiphone 335 kind of style guitar. I saw it. It was discounted way too much, so I bought it. And then I knew I wanted to mod it and kind of work on it myself. So that's what I did. I added a Bigsby, a new wiring system, new pickups, all that kind of stuff. But it was time for me to figure out how to do those things on my own. And so that's what I did.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference a pickup will make, right? Like you just go from, you know, I inherited my brother-in-law's Telecaster, and it was a Mexican Telecaster. It was beautiful, played wonderfully, but just, you know, you're just like, this does not sound that great. And so I went to the worship artistry community, and there was no shortage of like, oh, you're gonna want to get this. You're gonna want to like everybody running. I'm always like, every time somebody asks a tech question, I usually just kind of like hands off, and I'm like, you guys go, because you guys all have a lot of thoughts about these.
Yes.
But I ended up with these Lawlers these vintage Telecaster pickups, and they're amazing. It's now like one of my favorite guitars, you know, just from that one adjustment. It's very cool.
Great company. Lawler's a great company. Yeah.
Yeah. They're super rad. They were super great to work with and everything. So, Yeah, super happy with that. It's funny you talk about how like you've got to build there. Like my buddy, like the guitar that you always see on all the videos, right? Is that yellow, thin. Everyone's like, what thin line Telecaster in that? It's like, dude, that's a student that built it and gave it to me one day. Same kind of a thing. And he just kind of asked me like, what would you want on a guitar? He was like kind of like getting hints for a while. But if you look at that thing, I mean, many people have pointed out many of the knobs are missing. They just kept falling off. So I'm just like, I don't need to deal with those anyway. And then, and the pick guard's a little like cut funny and everything, but I just love that guitar. It feels great. Yeah. It plays great. It sounds great. It's just like, that's the thing. That's the magic.
Yes.
It's like a matte finish, so it doesn't glare on camera, which is also helpful.
I'm a videographer as well, so I get that.
It's like, oh, okay, that one works the best. The amount of lighting adjustments I've had to make, like sit in this funny way to like make things work on those videos is crazy.
Right. Yes, I get it.
So are you leading worship now? Are you playing on a worship team at all? Or are you still kind of working to that?
Working to it, but I've got a date on the calendar for March 26th. I've been working with the band, and we're leading a worship night March 26th here in Fort Worth. And so that'll be my first time, full band on stage, tracks, clicks, all that kind of good stuff. And so really excited for it. Yeah,
dude, that's gonna be great, man.
Yes,
it is such a different environment to be at. Like, I think we sometimes get so caught up in the technical things about leading worship that we lose that thing of what makes worship magical, which is us all being together and all singing together. And like, so my encouragement to you in that moment is spend a lot of time looking up.
Yes,
like,
amen.
Look around and pay attention to what's going on, because it's so easy to get caught in like, I have to play this part, and just enjoy the moment, because it's going to be wonderful for you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think we had our first rehearsal, and of course I've been learning through you, and I just felt totally prepared like the first time and stuff like that. I mean, I'm just ready for it. I've been, once again, I know I'm overhyping it, but I'm just ready. I'm just ready for it, man. It's gonna be fun. The band is phenomenal, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Dude, that is awesome, man. Well, like I said, it has been so fun to just watch you. Like everyone, like my wife is like, dude, this Steven guy, like she sees it and she'll be going through it, and I'm like, I know he's the best, right? He's the best. So it's
awesome.
It's super fun, and it's just super great to have you on and get to see you. I'm a little bummed that you got your job in Fort Worth, because you were talking about coming out to Seattle for a while, and that was kind of exciting. Not gonna lie, but we'll make it down to Dallas.
I'll visit soon.
There you go.
Soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, anytime you want to come to Bellingham, you let me know. We'll make it happen.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Steven.
What a solid guy.
I know, right? Like, what a pleasant personality. Yes. He's just always smiling. He's always smiling.
I'm so glad that you actually had a conversation with him.
It's when you're typing, there's something about online stuff that feels...
I mean, you already despise all online things.
That's not all online things.
Just social media.
I run a website that's online.
Can you tell who actually runs everything?
I do have strong opinions about what goes up sometimes.
He does.
I do That's feel there's that way. I learned that the hard way. It's kind of like decorating in my house. Like, I don't have any ideas for that, but
you have opinions,
and I have veto power. Like, when it's like, no, not that. No, that's enough. I never use it though, because my wife is always right.
That's a good lesson for everyone.
Cool. It is cool actually learning, getting to meet somebody. And I actually got to meet somebody else who I have yet to meet in person.
Right.
This last week, my family took a vacation to Disneyland, which I'm tired. I need a vacation from the vacation. Super fun. But I also got to meet our drummer, Sydney, for the first time.
And he's been with us for about a year, more than a year.
He's been with us over a year.
Yep.
Just cranking out lessons. And we meet, weekly on video calls, and did all his interviewing. He started in Nashville, and then now he's in LA. And so it was super cool to get to meet him.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. He's taller than I thought. That was right off the bat. I was like,
how much taller?
Like, I thought we were about the same height, and I was definitely kind of looking up. He's a good 6 something.
Oh, wow.
Maybe.
I would not have expected that.
Maybe. It might be that I'm just kind of short, but, yeah, super cool to meet him. And we got to just like rip out on Thai food for a night and
amazing.
Scream at each other. We went to Night Market, which I don't know if you're familiar with that place, but it's It's a Thai food joint. I love the cookbook. I've been cooking out of the cookbook forever. And
Jason's a foodie, for those that don't know.
When I can be, when I've got the time. It's starting to get less, though, because I've found that it's way less work to have people over and just like sit around the campfire and hang out rather than
But you can still be a foodie
meal.
on your own.
Yeah, my wife can't like eat anything anymore. I love food and I can't cook anything anymore. But I love Thai food, and so getting to go to night market was super cool.
Amazing.
And I pretty much lost my voice screaming across the table to Sydney,
and probably on roller coasters.
Yeah, I'm not really a screamer. I'm more of a smiler. So I'm having a good time on roller coasters. You have to
just release your voice.
I'm not scared. I'm just having a great time. I'm having a great time. I have this. I realize this too, and it makes me nervous when I'm mountain biking, is that when I'm having fun on something like that, like it's just a big grin on my face.
Smile.
Like I'm just like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to lose my teeth. Like I am going to go over the bars and just wreck myself. But anyway, it was a great time. It was a great time to meet Sydney. He's just as cool as I thought, if not cooler.
Amazing.
And he even wore a shirt that he wears in the video. So I was like, it really is like you. You know?
It really is you.
So it was super, super cool to meet him. And we've got some cool things in the works coming up. So
yeah. And if you want to check out the lessons that Sydney teaches on Worship Artistry and that Jason teaches, you can go over to worshipartistry.com and check them out. And maybe you can, if you're like Steven and you're starting from scratch, there's hope for you. Like you can start from scratch. I'm actually learning how to play guitar from scratch from Jason's lessons on Worship Artistry as well. So
she's gonna be so sick of me by the time.
I might be already.
One E and
but check it out. Oh my goodness, strumming is so hard. I have to say, I might just stick to piano. No, I'm gonna stick it through. I can do it. I can be like Steven, and I'll own more guitars than Jason.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.